What's up, everybody? On today's show, some SEC names that made the Maxwell Award Watch List. Also, more recruits committing following this past weekend. And some of our conversation from SEC Media Days. We'll catch up with CBS Sports Brad Nessler as we head into the final year of the SEC on CBS. Also, we'll sit down with Alyssa Lang of the SEC Network to talk about her role throughout the season. Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network covering your team every day. All right, plenty to get into. Let's jump into it. Let's go around the conference.
Boots out to the right. Takes the handoff. What a catch!
Around the conference.
And we start with one of the big postseason college football awards, the Maxwell Award, given out to the best player in college football annually. They announced their watch list on Monday for the 87th Maxwell Award. Like we said, going annually to the most outstanding player in college football. Some notable names from the SEC to make the list. Alabama running back Jace McClellan, Arkansas's KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders, Florida wide receiver Ricky Pearsall, Georgia tight end Brock Bowers, Kentucky quarterback Devin Leary. LSU's got Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors. Mississippi State has quarterback Will Rogers. Ole Miss running back Quinshon Judkins. South Carolina's Spencer Rattler and Juice Wells. Tennessee quarterback Joe Milton. And Vanderbilt wide receiver Will Shepard. Now, the SEC has actually won the Maxwell Award, or had won it in 4 straight seasons before USC's Caleb Williams won it last year. You go back to 2018. It was Tua Tagovailoa, Joe Burrow, Devontae Smith, and then Bryce Young before Caleb Williams won it. Now, you go back a little bit further, and there was a lot of SEC guys in there. Tim Tebow won it twice. Cam Newton won it in 2010, A.J. McCarron in 2013, and Derrick Henry in 2015. So it's an award that a lot of SEC guys have won. See if the SEC can jump back in there and reclaim the Maxwell Award this season. In other news, we talked about the big recruiting weekend from Hugh Freeze over the weekend, most notably flipping 5-star wide receiver Perry Thompson from Alabama to Auburn. Paul Feinbaum was on with Greg McElroy and Cole Kublik on Monday on their Jocks FM radio show. And Feinbaum said, look, it feels like a moment in time that we're going to remember, a moment in time that we'll go back and say that was it. That was that week or period in July of 2023 when Auburn finally made the turn back toward the top. He said, I'm not suggesting they're going to get there tomorrow. All I'm saying is history has shown these moments have occurred. And I know some people will come out of their chair when I go back to 1981 at the beginning of my career when Pat Dye flipped the player and ultimately got Bo Jackson. But that was that moment that we all remember back to when Auburn started moving toward legitimacy. We will see if that was the case. I did think it was funny, though. On3 Recruits tweeted out a conversation with Perry Thompson, and one of his quotes on why he flipped from Alabama to Auburn, he said, look, I know Nick Saban specializes with DBs, and my main position is receiver. And Hugh Freeze, he's got that background of developing receivers at a high level. Well, Alabama fans had fun with that, basically tweeting memes of all the Alabama receivers from Devontae Smith to Jalen Waddle, Henry Ruggs. It's been stud receiver after stud receiver at Alabama. So I get it. Look, Perry Thompson saying, I'm going to go be coached by Hugh Freeze, who will put me in positions to be great and all that kind of stuff. It's just kind of funny because intimating there that, Nick Saban can't have good receivers. They certainly have at Alabama. But anyway, just fun to look at. In other news, over at Tennessee, they went into the state of Texas for their latest commitment. Offensive tackle Bennett Warren, 6'7", 330-pound offensive tackle, rated the number 8 offensive tackle in the 24/7 Sports Composite, number 25 player from the state of Texas. And that is the 19th commitment for Josh Heupel in this group. He's the second highest rated fall commit, and the class is up to number 8 in the country. And they got a nice offensive line here class here with William Satterwhite, Gage Ginther, Jesse Perry, Max Anderson, and now Bennett Warren. 24/7 Sports calls Warren an enormous offensive tackle prospect with elite height and length, a legitimate 6'7" with a wingspan beyond 7 feet, ready to play, wears his bulk fairly well. So Josh Heupel, keep digging and recruiting in those trenches. Tennessee's just going to be fine for the years to come. In other commitment news, over at Arkansas, they pick up a safety in Jeremy Cook from the Hoover, Alabama area, 6'3", 195-pound athlete. And that brings Arkansas up to 17 commitments. Cook is the second safety in this group, along with four-star athlete Julius Pope out of the state of Mississippi. And it's the fourth recruit from the state of Alabama in this Arkansas class. Cook now gives Arkansas 8 commitments on the defensive side of the ball. So good focus there for Sam Pittman's crew. Over at LSU, Brian Kelly picked up a commitment from a guy we talked about earlier in the week, offensive lineman Joseph Cryer. They call him Big Hoss, 6'4", 290 pounds. He had committed to Ole Miss and then decommitted over the weekend. So was only committed to Ole Miss for about a month, but was recruited by LSU's Brad Davis. And the Louisiana kid is staying in the state of Louisiana, rated the number 69 interior offensive lineman, the number 33 player from the state of Louisiana. He tweeted out, I want to thank my family for getting me through this process. Thank God for putting me in this position. I'm 100% committed to Louisiana State University. Over at Ole Miss, they got a commitment from Miami transfer defensive back Chris Graves Jr. He's 6'1", 175-pound corner. Told On Three's Matt Zenitz he was down to Ole Miss and Texas A&M, and ultimately announced he is heading to Oxford. He was a 2022 recruit, spent one season at Miami, didn't appear in any games there, so he'll have 4 years of eligibility left with the Rebels. He was a 4-star prospect coming out a year ago. He was the number 161 player nationally, the number 7 athlete in last year's class. So we'll see what Chris Graves Jr. can do for the Ole Miss Rebels. Over at Florida, an interesting note as Brandon Spikes, back in Gainesville, the former Florida linebacker, working as a student assistant. He's enrolled at Florida, looking to finish off his degree. He's also, like we said, a student assistant under Billy Napier's staff. Spikes, of course, played for Urban Meyer's teams back in the late 2000s. And, of course, had a nice NFL career as well. So good to have an old Gator face back on the sidelines there in Gainesville. And one more Tennessee note here. Taven Jackson, their former quarterback, is, of course, transferred from Tennessee over to Indiana. He was a 4-star quarterback a year ago. And, look, Hendon Hooker had come in and Joe Milton was hanging around, but it was looking like, okay, well, Hendon Hooker's going to head off to the NFL, see what happens with Joe Milton. But when Nico Yamaliava came in, the writing was on the wall. Taven Jackson's not going to play here. So he made the decision to transfer to Indiana, but in an interview this week was very complimentary of the Tennessee staff. He said, I still think that quarterback room and the way they coach their kids is the best in the nation. I hope they have a great season. Jackson appeared briefly in 3 games for Tennessee last year, was 3 for 4 passing for 37 yards. But now he's up at Indiana. And a quick SEC hoops note, Arkansas and Oklahoma are going to face off for the 3rd consecutive season in their Crimson and Cardinal Classic. It'll be played in Tulsa, Oklahoma on Saturday, December 9th of this year. It's a neutral site clash. It'll be the final in that 3-game series. OU won the 2021 meeting. Arkansas evened the series with a 10-point win last year. And, of course, they'll play each other again with Oklahoma coming over to the SEC. And there you have it. That is the latest news going on around the conference. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, you don't want to miss it, our conversation with Brad Nessler, talking about the final year of the SEC on CBS. That's coming your way in just a sec. But first, I want to remind you guys this episode is presented to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. We've been talking about it. Look, if you want to have a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same thing when it comes to your car. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you're looking for parts and accessories and I know you are because it's the summer and cars need retooling, they have issues, you want to head over to eBay Motors. With the eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can make sure every part you need fits just right the first time around. You go to their website, very easy. You add your car to the My Garage section. You look for the green check when you're looking for a part. That will let you know that that part is going to fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence, the name of the game when you shop at eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you're going to be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. So go get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices over at ebaymotors.com. ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Check out our friends, ebaymotors.com. It's not SEC Media Days without a conversation with the great Brad Nessler joining us here. Man, how many years has this been? I love seeing you because you come so casual. Everybody's all like, they have their posses and their crew with them and wrangle them in. Brad Nessler just kind of rolls in very casually, and you're the best, man. What's going on?
I'll roll out just as quietly, So, yeah, I've been getting a lot of grief about it. A lot of people don't know that this is my look from the end of March Madness till September. Sometimes I shave my goatee off before I come to SEC Media Days. This time I said I don't really care. So, yeah, you're getting this is what you get during the off season from me. Yeah, I don't know. This would be the 7th time for CBS, but I used to come when I was with ABC and ESPN too. So I don't know how many of these I've been to. But, this is kind of like the wake-up call that, okay, you're going to have to start wearing socks pretty soon, and you can't wear shorts and sweats every day. You got to go to work here in a few weeks. So, yeah, this is the wake-up call that football's here.
I think you told us about it last year, but basically when you're done with basketball and everything, you just go, are you just out on the water the entire time?
Yeah, I try to be, either at the pool or in the lake or something, and that's where I'm heading as soon as I leave here, as a matter of fact. Yeah, I don't get a lot accomplished in the off season, and my wife would like me to accomplish more, but I really don't. And they say, what do? Do you golf? And I don't really golf that much. I golf in some charity events or whatever. And do you fish? Yeah, I do, but sometimes it's so hot on the dock that, I'd rather just sit in the cool air somewhere and do nothing. So, yeah, I'm kind of lazy in the off season.
I know your attitude may just be, I just work here, but it's a little bittersweet. Last year, CBS, SEC, right?
Yeah. I'll miss it. But, football's football. I'll go on to something else. But I'm just going to cherish this last year. It's going to be, I think, a lot of fun. I think just everybody kind of stepped up to the plate a little bit last year. Tennessee elevating their game. LSU being, a factor again. Alabama losing 2 games, and everybody said it's a terrible year. Georgia running the table. So, everybody got a little bit better last year, and that makes the job more fun, and I hope that sustains itself this year, and that that there's more competitiveness at least through the first couple months of the season, and then it kind of thins itself out when you get down to that last month. You go, okay, I think I know who's good and who's not.
Do you have anything left on the SEC bucket list you haven't done yet?
Man, that's a great question. I'm going to miss the square in Oxford. I'm going to miss the Eagle flying at Auburn home games. I'm going to miss LSU at night. I'm going to miss when they play Sweet Home Alabama 10 minutes before kickoff in Tuscaloosa. I'm going to miss an occasional home game at Georgia. There's things I'm thinking about I will miss. I don't know if there's anything else that I haven't quite done.
We could have gotten you with those guys carrying the goalposts out in Knoxville.
See, that would have been pretty special. What I did want to do that night, and they just wouldn't let me, is our CBS bus was waiting for us to take us back to Atlanta, and we were pretty well stocked with food and beverage, but I really wanted to light a cigar with everybody, and I had one with me, and they go, you just can't smoke it on the bus. I said, why don't we just stand outside the bus and let me just partake with the other Vol fans here for a second? And they said, yeah, but we got to go. So I would have liked to have joined the Vols fans with a cigar that night.
A few football questions for you. It's pretty crazy what Kirby's kind of built here, that we're actually talking about the word three-peat, but, it's just an homage to what he's been able to do here.
And they're built to keep on going. And if you look at their schedule this year, I don't really know who's supposed to beat them. I think, Tennessee in late November, maybe. Everybody's a threat. But, I mean, their schedule's pretty ridiculously easy compared to some teams. And, that was made a long time ago. It's not like they said, well, we got 2 championships, let's have a sloughy schedule. I don't know if I'd want season tickets in Athens, actually. I don't think there's anybody that's going to challenge them. The biggest question mark will be, replacing Stetson Bennett. And I was just telling somebody over here a couple minutes ago, if you would have made that statement 3 years ago, I don't know how they'll replace Stetson Bennett. Everybody would have laughed you right out of the park, But that's how much he meant to that team and how much they believed in him and followed his lead. If Carson Beck is just maybe average, they should still win 11 games. They're just built to keep on going. And eventually you're going to find a little chip in their armor or whatever, I suppose, along the way. But man, the way Kirby's built, it's been something.
Don't tell anybody, but I got Carson Beck 300-1 odds on the Heisman. So
is that what you got?
Yeah, I mean, hey, we'll see. It's worth a shot, right?
They got about 3 5-star guys over there. Brock Vandergriff and Gunnar Stockton or whatever, and they got a kid coming in next year that Dad played in the NFL, and he's supposed to be the number one recruit in the whole country at quarterback. So I think they'll find a way to live with it.
A few other SEC topics with you. Hugh Freeze back in the conference.
Yeah.
It was a little weird seeing him wear an Auburn pin today.
I hadn't seen him yet today, but there's no doubt about that because I remember some of the meetings when he was at Ole Miss and how that all ended. I thought, I'll never see him again probably, but I'm gonna see him. It's going to be interesting, and it should make them a competitive team in a kind of a hurry. I think their biggest question is everybody's biggest question is who's your quarterback, unless you have an established, vet, and there's some of those around the league, Jaden Daniels and KJ Jefferson and Spencer Rattler, and there's some Will Rogers at Mississippi State. So if you got a competent quarterback, you got a good shot, and he's supposed to be a quarterback guru type guy. Right. So he'll find somebody that can play the spot, and when they do, they'll be effective again. Yeah,
we'll see if Peyton Thorne is that guy. It was good to see Zach Arnett, head coach Mississippi State, but man, how bittersweet with the passing of Mike Leach.
I still can't believe it. Somebody was doing a special on Mike or something, and they wanted me to be part of it, and I just remember being at Washington State and Texas Tech, and every time I was around him, the meetings we would have were so much different than, let's say, I'm not going to say another name, any other coach. You walk in his office, there's a full pirate guy, right? As you walk in with a sword and the whole, it was so much fun, and he was so much fun to be around, and we're going to miss that because there aren't many of him. Yeah. That kind of personality, it just doesn't really exist. You got the guys with the placards that are this big and they're covering their mouth, and on the sideline calling plays. And, literally Mike had a thing about the size of our media badges. and he called a whole game off that, and I just love that. We used to burn on him about it. He's like, hey, if it's working, I'm going to run the same play, So he was a character. We don't have enough of those, that's for sure. Yeah,
I think it was like pass short left, pass short right. Like
exactly.
it was that simple, but
completion. Yeah,
it's unbelievable. It worked. All right, last thing for you. I ask you about this all the time. NCAA video games coming back. I know that we don't know who the voice is going to be on that, but your voice still lives on to this day on the old video game.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of dads that come up to me and they bring their kids up to meet me. And the kid has no idea who I am until he hears my voice, and he's like, "Dad, that's on your video game." Because now I've gone another generation down. So the games was, the last game was 2014 or whatever. So the kids are getting smaller, and the dads were the guys that were playing the video games. So yeah, I did that for a long time, and it was fun doing it. But I don't think my voice could handle it anymore.
Yeah, one of my good buddies, Matt Thomas, he's the voice of the Rockets, and he gets to work with the NBA, and they brought him in the last few years with 2K, and he said, just sitting in that room, literally saying, Antetokounmpo. Literally running through every name. It's got to be a long day.
Oh, it was. And we had to do every conceivable play that you could run from the 1 yard line going that way to the 1 yard line going in, and everything in between, and every kind of play you could run. So when there were big plays like a 99-yard touchdown on a screen pass, I had to be that excited, and I kept saying, listen, guys, I can't do 100 big plays in a row because the thing's going to crack and I'll be broken in half. So, yeah, we can have to spread out the big plays and the little plays.
Well, some of the best pipes in all of sports. Brad, we really appreciate the time, and enjoy the last season of the SEC, my friend.
I will enjoy every Saturday of it. Good to see you, buddy.
Always good to catch up with Alyssa Lang from the SEC Network. I think I counted, this is your 6th season already with the network?
Yes, which is, oh my gosh, that's crazy to think about it. It feels like it's gone by in 2 seconds, but yeah, 6th season.
Yeah,
it's
and you've done so much. You've had Out of the Pocket, you've done, studio work, sideline work, all this. Does it feel like it's been 6 years, though?
It really doesn't. I mean, I look back at some of the things we've covered and some of the games that we've done, and I guess thinking about it that way, it feels like 6 years. But gosh, it's been so much fun. It feels like it's been the blink of an eye since I got here in 2018. And I don't think I got to do media days in 2018 because I got in a little bit late in August, but it just flies by. Time flies when you're having fun, I guess.
You were part of a special moment the other night, the 95 mile per hour challenge between Chris Doering and Dari Noka.
Yeah.
And Doering proved the point. Just because you're an elite athlete doesn't mean you can hit a fastball.
It was unbelievably painful to watch. I would say maybe the moment that people don't know about is Aaron Murray trying to hit just some underhand toss-ups, and he missed like 9 in a row. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, how many records did you break as a Georgia quarterback and you can't even hit some toss-ups in the middle of the outfield? Dari surprised all of us. I don't think any of us had our money on Dari, and I told him I'd never doubt him again in an athletic competition against Doering. I wish, though, CD would learn to stop making bets because he keeps losing them and he doesn't get any smarter when it comes to making bets that he can't cash.
Yeah, no doubt. Dari looked like a little Jose Altuve out there. I mean, he was ripping single after single.
And, the excuse now is that the bat was a little small and maybe it fit Dari better than it did. All I hear is excuses. That's all I hear. And Dari made contact with 5. Couldn't believe it, but we were thrilled for him.
We've talked about in the past with you, but you getting a chance to try stadium foods while on the sideline over the years. Do you have a favorite that you've had?
Oh my gosh, that is hard. We normally try to find something really hyper local or something that a place that the fan base really loves. And I guess I can probably be a little biased here when I say last year we went to Andy's Deli in Columbia, South Carolina, which is a place that's really, really special to the student body at South Carolina and the fans out there. And we got to eat the sandwiches on the sidelines. But I think I had a 5-pound burger on the sidelines at Texas A&M once. I'm trying to think back to some. We've had pizza, we've had donuts. Five Daughters Donuts here in Nashville have been incredible. Wow. We had those on the sidelines of a Vandy game. So it's an excuse for us to eat, but it also makes us feel a little bit more connected to the community that we're in that weekend.
Any issue while you were eating and then they threw it to you?
Yeah, actually, forgive me, I can't remember the name of the burger joint in College Station, but I believe the burger was called the Hulk. And it was a two patty, maybe 1 pound burger. And I was like, first of all, I need this for optics. But second of all, I think I have a point to prove to my crew that I tend to be the one who eats the most, which says a lot because I have offensive lineman Matt Stinchcomb on my crew as well. So I'm sitting here eating the burger, and we did a little bit late in the second quarter. And I realized I'm about 2 minutes away from my halftime interview with Jimbo Fisher. So I'm like, trying to wipe my mouth with ketchup and mustard and all this stuff. I'm eating this burger. It's still hot, so I'm sweaty. And I realized I have the worst onion breath of my life. And I felt so terrible. I'm holding the microphone and I'm trying to not necessarily breathe right in Coach Fisher's face with my onion breath. He didn't say anything, but I was very self-conscious about it that day.
I mean, I would be too. That's intimidating. What to you is look, we get in depth on everything. What to you is the biggest storyline heading into this football season?
Oh, man, I think it's got to be the SEC West. That's probably the question I've been asked the most over the last few days, and the question that we're going to be trying to figure out probably well into October as far as who ends up winning that league or winning that division and representing the SEC West when it comes to Atlanta. It makes sense that the early pick is LSU, and I'm right there. I have a lot of confidence in the Tigers and their ability to get it done, but it's going to be a true test for the Alabama Crimson Tide and this Nick Saban-led coaching staff as far as those next guys up. who's going to be taking over that starting quarterback position over Bryce Young, because obviously Bama's always a contender. Can they be the ones to get the win over LSU this year and run the table in the West? I don't think you can sleep on the Aggies. I don't think you can sleep on Ole Miss either when you look at the production that they return and the three quarterbacks that they have to choose from right now as well. I think Arkansas has maybe one of the most slept on quarterback running back duos maybe in the entire country when it comes to KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders. So for me, my biggest question is who the heck is going to be standing when it comes to the SEC West and how far the drop off is going to be by the end of the season.
I was going to ask, do you have a favorite coach to interview? But I do have to bring up, you had a pretty iconic interview with Coach Mike Leach, and obviously that caught all of us off guard. It feels weird being here this week and him not being here. Right?
It really does, and I miss him so much, and I know the college football community misses him so much. You know, he was just so authentically himself. And I was telling somebody this yesterday, you know, I really only got to interact with him on game days once or twice a year, and it wasn't that much. So many people knew him a lot better than I did. But I think about him almost every day, especially in a business like this one where you can get really critical and other people can be really critical of you. I always remember that Coach Leach wouldn't have compromised himself for anybody. And if I ever have a day where I feel like maybe I got to be a little bit more like that person, or maybe I'm not enough, or maybe I'm not doing this, I think about Coach Leach all the time. And I think about the things he would say, the one-liners, the jokes, whatever the story is that he was telling that day, and how he just galvanized so many people to become fans of him who weren't Mississippi State fans or didn't follow his career, but went, man, that guy is a real person. And that guy is someone I want to sit down and have a beer with. And I really appreciate that element to his personality. And I try to remember that every day.
Yeah, that interview will live in infamy for years to come. All right, I have a couple more questions for you. This is the next one. Do you think you could emergency land a commercial plane with only air traffic control walking you through it?
No. And I brought this up about a month ago on our SiriusXM show because somehow so many of our colleagues think that they can. There's a reason why pilots have so much training and so many hours and are people that we put our life in their hands. And I am not putting my life in the hand of Chris Doring landing a plane with air traffic control walking him through it. I'm not.
He would probably rip his shirt off too and just do it shirtless landing.
Much respect to our pilots out there. Our SEC network folks outside of Todd Walker have no business flying any planes.
Now, I asked my father-in-law about this. He's a pilot.
Okay.
He said that
it's pretty easy.
Those big
these
planes.
days.
Well, he just said those big planes. A lot of them are on auto. He said if it's on autopilot and that sort of thing, it might be easier.
But don't you think that if we were in this situation where a passenger had to emergency, like something has gone wrong to the point where that probably isn't working anymore?
Right, exactly.
I mean, like, what are we?
Yeah.
It's not happening.
I'm
could
just never line it
say
up.
my prayers and
line it up on the runway. That would just be the most intimidating thing ever.
And apparently, landing is one of the harder parts of the whole flight. In general.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Todd Walker told me. So I don't know. I believe him.
One more quick one. If South Carolina baseball makes it to Omaha next year, how many Jell-O shots can you personally consume to help them break the record?
I'm a huge lightweight. I would purchase them for other people since I would unnaturally be working.
Right.
Once I'm done with my little shift in Omaha, maybe that would change. I might have to start training now, though, honestly, because I am not a girl who can put away a lot of Jell-O shots.
Peter
I'm not gonna lie.
Peter Burns, those guys, they'll help you out.
They'll figure it out. Yeah.
She's Alyssa Lang, of course, SEC Network. Thanks so much for the time. Always good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, more right after this. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Thanks so much to our guest today, Brad Nessler from CBS Sports, Alyssa Lang from the SEC Network. Appreciate them for chiming in, and appreciate you guys, like we said, for making us your first listen every day. For our everydayers, make sure you come back and check us out throughout the week, including tomorrow. We're here for you 5 days a week talking all things SEC football. And we still got just a few more great interviews from our week over at SEC Media Days that we still need to bring you. So check that out throughout the week. More big names coming your way right here on Locked On SEC. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. I'm Chris Gordy, and keep rocking it right here on Locked On SEC.